Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. This is your spiritual life coach, Aunty.MaGoGo. If this is your first time on our channel, welcome. Please do subscribe. And to our resident subscribers, thank you so much for all the views. I know even some of you view some videos more than once, over and over again. I appreciate that. Some of you have shared. I appreciate the shares. I appreciate the likes too. I really do. I genuinely appreciate it. And the beautiful surprise that most of my viewers are actually male and not female. So that is very appreciated. I appreciate that surprise. And it was a bit of a wake-up call um, from the universe to say, hey, it's not just women who need to hear what you need to share. So yes, I'm Aunty.MaGoGo. I'm a spiritual life coach, amongst other things. So in this light, it's just me doing the spiritual coaching to the self-lovers, to the beloveds. So anyone going through their own healing and spiritual journey, and healing, in being a better person for themselves, in finding their purpose as well, this is the right channel for you. We welcome you. Take a seat, have your drink, have your joint, have your whatever that will make you comfortable in receiving this message. So this is Aunty.MaGoGo, and it's a 3-part message, but it will resonate where it needs to resonate. And as I always say, take what resonates and leave what doesn't. I do offer one-on-one spiritual coaching. I do tarot readings and consultations as well. So my email address and WhatsApp number are available in the video description. If not, then you'll find it in the channel description. So it's Aunty.MaGoGo, slicker than your average auntie, doper than your sickest MaGoGo, ruled only by the kings of my veins, and celebrated by the queens in my bones. Let's get to it. So now I want to start by talking about the inspiration behind my book, my digital book, She Waits. I think it's on over 1,000 reads the last time I checked. And the link is also in the channel description if I haven't added it to this video description too. And I thought my sharing the inspiration behind that would bring a bit of light to my journey, and also to other people who might find themselves in the same situation. So the book She Waits. So first of all, I had a bucket list. I had a to-do list when I turned, I think, 21, 22. I even had it on my bedroom wall. And one of them was to have my book written by age 26. I had started writing a book. I started writing a book. It was on the laptop and I left it there. So fast forward in my 30s. So my last relationship, which was my marriage, I'm doing this because it was a customary marriage, meaning dowry was paid but not completed. So we hadn't done the joining or the union of the ancestors. So spiritually, the work wasn't done yet. So we're living together. So it was an on and off relationship for 6 years. So the last time we got back together, it was a thing of marriage coming into play. And the beauty of it is we as women don't ask for marriage. Well, not all of us. It is something that the man usually comes to, right? Anyways, so with every breakup, I would go through spiritual awakenings. I would go through hectic stuff that would elevate my spiritual work and being to another level, right? So while we were not together, I felt myself changing. I felt myself becoming a different person to that, because it's so amazing how when a breakup happens, it's as if everything that you are now doing is to prove that breakup wrong, right? However, the reason why we got back together is because, straight and simple, I didn't appreciate myself enough. So I initiated the reconnection, as I did with all the other breakups, where I'd be the one making contact to say, hey, I think except for one, hey, can we meet? And we met. And when we meet, then he tells me how he feels and how he's missed me, and then we are back together. So, anyways, so I was living on my own when we got back together, and then after the lobola was paid, we moved into his place, right? Can I tell you that the whole time, I was even telling him, no, I'm a different person now. I've been doing a lot of work on myself, whatnot, you know? And then by the second month of me living with him, I realized that the person that I thought I was there all along. She was there all along. I realized, I think it wasn't by the second, because we started having the same issues now by like maybe the September, October, November, by the third month, by the fourth month, that's why I realized that shit hasn't really changed, right? I haven't changed. For the mere fact that I am back here, I have not changed at all. And the woman that I thought I left behind to become this woman that I think I am, is still in the same house, with the same walls, with the same stories, with the same happenings that happened here. She is still here. My old self is still here. Hence the book title, She Waits. So it was a wake-up call for me to also finally tell myself that I need to make this time worthwhile. I need to be honest with myself. So I hadn't really had the conversation with my partner to tell him what's going on with this realization. I think maybe he read the first, because it's a very short book. I think maybe he read the first chapter, but then I hadn't given him the context of where the book was coming from. So, but I'd had conversations with him, like with the realizations that, I realized that my attraction to emotionally unavailable men, I realized where it's coming from. I realized that in our household, such and such used to happen, that caused for me to be comfortable with emotionally unavailable men. And I wanted it to be something where we could conversate on, but then I realized that this is not going to land, because this is still my journey. These are my realizations, because this is my life, right? And then I carried on writing the book to a point where I finished writing it, and I didn't care whether he read it or not. I didn't. I just wrote it. I gave myself a deadline. I think in a week I was done with it, and then it was already online. I edited it after I even posted the book. I just wanted to tick off this bucket list that I had set for myself at age 26, and then at age 36 to 7, that's when I made sure I had completed it, right? So it was between 2022 and 2023. So it was in the space of 2 months, basically. I think. I'm not sure. It could have been after my birthday. So it could have been after Jan of 2023. So this girl, I say girl because it's still like it's a ball of not even a tumbleweed of my childhood. So it's like childhood traumas and my child self just sitting there and waiting for me to come and deal with her. That's what it felt like. It felt like I went back there to finally deal with myself. So when the usual things that would make us disrupt would happen, I would react differently. And I had told him a lot of times that you are now dealing with a different person. And even he said, like, you are not the same person anymore. I regret that I've changed you. You are now doing things the way I did them. And then he would beg me, please don't do that. Don't be me. And I'm thinking to myself, well, my not being this way, I ended up being the idiot. So, no, I'm going to carry on treating you how you deserve to be treated. But then along the lines, along the disruptions that would come about, because if you don't deal with shit, it's not going to go anywhere, right? And if we are not finding ways as a couple to really be having the honest conversations and with a big dose of accountability, then nothing will get done. So I had to work on shit on myself. So shit would happen and I'd remain calm because I would remind myself. I always had this visual of this woman of my old self sitting and waiting for me in this chair by the window. So every time shit would pop off, I'd remember that, oh shit, I am dealing with myself. I'd have to bring myself back to myself instead of reacting, but internally responding to myself in the situation to say, okay, what is this telling me about myself? Okay, all right. And then I start seeing him for who he really is, like the boy in him and what he was going through internally, and then realizing that, not my monkey, not my circus. I'm not going to deal with that. Let me deal with this person who's sitting in the chair waiting for me. How are we going to resolve this? So over time, so long story short, our back together / marriage only lasted a year and 4 months, and a year was the longest that we had been together in the back and forth of the 6 month consecutive months, right? Because we'd be together for like 5-6 months and then break up. It was, yeah, it happened like that. Was so strange, but it happened that way. And I didn't leave her behind this time. I took her with me. We left together because you don't leave yourself behind. No matter how many times you change, you never leave yourself behind. Never leave yourself behind, because that self that you're going to leave behind will wait for you at that place. Meaning, you will eventually go back to that place because she will be waiting. So fast forward, now that I'm here, my intention was to have the second book, I Hear Her, written by July this year. So I have started writing it, and then I stopped. I stopped writing it because I didn't know why I stopped. I just stopped. And then last week, I was having a bit of a WhatsApp chat with, is it one of my mentees slash sister, someone I met via TikTok, and um, she needed a bit of my guidance. And yeah, we've done some work together with the spiritual work, and yeah, we've done a few things where I have guided her and coached her, and we will be continuing with the coaching. She said to me, sis, I don't know if you'll take this as a compliment or not, but you know, of late, your videos, compared to your first initial videos that you did, your videos are very, um, they're very soft. They're more feminine than your first videos that you started with last year, because those were a bit more masculine and all and all. And I said to her, yeah, it's because I had to realize that at the end of the day, I am still a woman. I had to realize that I had to treat myself softer. And then we went on for a bit, just chatting, and then shortly after that, I told her that, one of the best decisions that I made was to leave my marriage. And I said, maybe I need to do a video where I'm talking about my marriage and how and why I left. So I don't want to get into it. I don't want to get too much into it, because like every story, there are three sides. So he also has his side too. Two things. And I'm not blaming anyone for anything. Woo! In fact, damn, I blame myself. And I appreciate the journey. I appreciate it. And I've come to an understanding why things had to happen the way they happened to get me to where I am now. The turmoil that had to happen had to happen. So the soft treatment started happening even before I got back together with him. My self-love journey started way before that, because I even became a certified I even completed my doula training by then, because I started while we were together, but then I certified, and then I even certified as a spiritual life coach while we were not together. So I think around 2021, yeah, that's when, yeah, I certified for both. So my self-loving started then, especially when I was living alone. That's when I was doing everything I loved. That's when I was eating how I wanted to eat, because I was alone. And then the reason that inspired me that motivated me to say to her, the best decision I've ever made was to leave that marriage. Because as soon as she said that, as soon as she told me that your videos are now softer, you're a bit more feminine, you're a bit more calmer, you're a bit whatever, they're not so aggressive. Not that I was pushing the aggression, but as soon as she said that, when you get flashbacks of how you felt and in a certain time, it wasn't peaceful where I was. Yes, there were very good days, a lot of good days, I'm not gonna lie. And he really did take good care of me in other ways, and not in other ways, because it wasn't his job to look after me. So I was looking after myself, right? There was a lot of energy of aggression. There was a lot of energy of anger. There was a lot of, when there's lack of accountability and wanting to do better. And as much as you can be doing the work on yourself, if you are not in the right surroundings, it is eventually going to affect you. So that's when, even while I was there, I started treating myself better, in a sense that I would choose to not entertain some things. I would choose not to entertain a lot of the shit that would have put me off. Because also, a lot of times, from the times that we started dating, those 6 years back, I told him a lot of times that you are very fortunate to find me in the state that I'm now in. I'm a very calm person now. I've changed a lot. And now in the year and 4 months of us living together, once or twice I had to show him, do not fuck with me. Do not bring out this. Do not bring out the G in me, because the G is there, right? So the first videos that I did, of course, there was going to be a lot of aggression and the masculinity, is because it had to come to the forefront where I had to be on guard. I had to protect myself a lot because I was always on guard. You never knew how shit would happen. You never knew how the day would begin or end. Because there was always room for chaos. There was always room for some kind of shit that just didn't make sense. Where we are talking one thing and next thing it's another thing. You know? So nothing was actually linear. And anyways, we are here now. So the reason why I stopped writing that book, that my second book, I Hear Her, is because I realize now, even after having that conversation or chat with, shout out Deniko. And thank you for everything. Thank you for the support. Thank you for all the views and the sharing and the motivation and, you know, everything. Thank you. I realized that I had stopped writing the second book because I didn't want it to be inspired by a painful time. I didn't want it inspired by a painful a painful time. It was, and they were painful times because there was a lot of emotional abuse, even verbal abuse too, to a certain extent. There was a lot of mind fucking too. There was a lot of lies. You know, when you the whole savior complex thing as well. That's what kept me going back as well. Besides my abandonment issues. So my abandonment issues come from, in my household, if you did something wrong when we were growing up, it wouldn't just end today. It would prolong. We wouldn't conversate about it. You'd get silent treatment for days or whatever. And for that silent treatment to end, I'd have to like do something to get my parents' attention back. And I was in a relationship like that. But then now when we got back together, I wasn't doing any of that shit. Hence, he was able to notice. And without trying to change himself, he'd be like, I hate that I've turned you into me. Please just don't change who you are. And I became a better person for myself. So the reason why I didn't continue writing this book is because I was writing it from a painful place. And this also then brings me to the second part of this video or class, because I call my videos classes, right? I have a great love for the artist Frida Kahlo. I was introduced to her many years ago from watching the movie Frida bumped into the movie. I think it was on SABC 2. And I was like, what? Or was it ETV? I was like, who is this woman? Because I had seen pictures of her a lot. And I'd always wondered, who is she? So over time, I'd find out more and more and more and more and more and more about her. And the other day, I watched another documentary on her. So Frida, for those who don't know who Frida Kahlo is, I don't know if I'll show a picture of her here somewhere, and then you'll have a context to who I'm talking about. So Frida was a Mexican-born artist who, I think at the age of 9, had polio, so it affected her right leg. Obviously, it wasn't going to look like the other one. And then when she was 18, she got into a bus accident that fractured her skull not her skull, her pelvis in many places. And she had to be bedridden for a while. And she always had back issues because of that accident. And then so then she went to some school. So here's another thing about destiny, right? Here's another thing about destiny. Certain shit happens to put you in the place that you need to be. So Frida was at some school, and then there was a story of molestation with a teacher. Some letters were found between her and this teacher. And then she had to be moved from that school, and then she ended up in an art school. And then that's where she started getting into art. And then that's where she met her soon-to-be lifelong back-and-forth husband, Diego, who was a mural artist. And he was 20 years older than her. And the first time she saw him, she told her friend that, I'm going to marry that man. This man wasn't very attractive. She even said that he looked like a toad on its front legs. That's how shaped. He wasn't the most attractive man, but he had charisma and he was very busy. Yeah. So anyways, Frida later ends up with this man. They get married. And he wasn't a very faithful husband. He had a lot of women. He was always just cheating and stuff. And she had a lot of miscarriages, a few terminations. I think also because of the pelvis situation that happened with the accident. It didn't help with her keeping the pregnancies to full term, right? So anyways, some of the best work, or some of her most famous paintings, are or were inspired by this very toxic relationship that she had with Diego. Because the symbolism, the messaging, and a lot of the things in the most famous pieces that she did came from the chaotic times that she spent and the things that happened between her and this man. From the point of how she dressed, he kind of inspired that. Because he liked a certain look to her. He also inspired her, well, given the experience that he had. I mean, he was 20 years older. So he inspired her style of painting too. He would advise her here and there. So she looked for mentorship and she looked for belonging in this man who time and time again showed her that he didn't appreciate her or didn't love her, to be honest. But besides him showing her that he didn't love her, time and time again, he showed her how she didn't love herself. A lot of the times you get into situations or even relationships where it's not a matter of this person showing you that they don't love you. It's them showing you how much you don't love yourself. Accountability, right? So they divorced, got back together, And then this man cheated on her with her sister. Her sister. So every one of these, from the miscarriages, from the abortions, there's an art piece or a few that illustrate this time that she was going through. Okay, sharp. Then time went on. She also then started doing the same thing where she would also just have her own things on the side. And Frida had a few relationships with women too. But then Diego did not have a problem with these. He only had a problem with her having other relationships with men. Anyways, they carry on. I think they broke up again and then got back together when now her back was giving her even more problems, right? Where she had now to be bedridden. And before, some of her art pieces she had painted while being in bed and being bedridden. That's one of the things she's famous for. She had to stay in bed, but she painted while in bed. And then this happened again. And this time she had to be assisted even more. Guess what Diego did? He still left her there in bed and still cheated like Murtu. Like there was no tomorrow. He still cheated. He still cheated on her. He still cheated. And a lot of Frida's artwork from the time she was with this man until the 50s, because she died in 1954. She passed on in 1954. So her work, I think, from the maybe 40s to the 50s, or maybe the late 30s to the... We are back. So, yeah, so Frida's work from the late 30s to the 50s are mostly self-portraits. So a lot of her work, she's in them. So it illustrates the miscarriages, the abortions, but she's in a lot of these paintings, right? And justice. The way she captured herself, her facial expressions, her eyes in her paintings, they said a lot. And in a lot of them, there were tears rolling down her face in a lot of these paintings, in a lot of her self-portraits, besides all the other things that could be happening around and the stories that she's telling and the pains that she's in, right? Of her in the hospital, whatever, right? The sad part is, towards the end, she stopped painting these self-portraits. One of the ones that she did was, before she died, was she painted Diego in as if he's her third eye, the all-seeing eye. And I think it's the second one where she did something like that. The first one I think is called Diego on My Mind. And then Diego has a third eye. He has an eye as a third eye. So he's her third eye, but then he has his own third eye, right? And then her hair is all around her neck, and it seems like her hair is strangling her. And it said that one of the things that he loved about her was her long flowing hair. And she also did a portrait after he cheated on her with her sister, where she cut her hair, because she did cut her hair as a way of mourning that. So after that, the paintings that she started doing were stills of, for example, fruit, but there was like really deep messaging and yeah, there was deep messaging in them. And one of her most beautiful pieces was of fruit. I think it was watermelon. Yeah, I think it was watermelon. And um, the name of it is Viva La Vida. Viva La Vida. La Vida is life. And she died, I think, a year or a couple of months after that. Her last pieces, which were also still beautiful, and were also not about Diego, but it was about her remembering the beauty of life. Her last paintings was her remembering the beauty of life. It made me think of how, as creatives, a lot of the work that we create when we're not at our best, when we're going through the worst shit, is gladly accepted and appreciated, and the rest of the world will feel it, they will love it. It's like a singing artist, right? And Justin Timberlake, Cry Me a River. Oh my God, people loved it, right? For example, that's just one example. Like Lauryn Hill, the miseducation of Lauryn, there was a lot happening with her around that time. And then when she started healing and she did Lauryn Hill Unplugged, people were like, wait a minute, what is going on with you, woman? And in Unplugged, she was telling us that this is the real me. These are my lessons. And people were not gladly accepting it. It's because the majority of the world, all we know is pain. We easily recognize pain, and then we hardly recognize joy. We are quick to repel joy. We are very quick to repel joy. Or it takes us time to warm up to joy. It's like when you first meet someone who's very jovial, who's very gay and happy and, flamboyant, not in a sexuality way, but they character and, they are an extrovert. You want some what the fuck? It's not everyone who will be like, yeah, I like that person because they're so happy. It's like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, calm down. And then when you meet someone who has the resting bitch face, there's a part of you that wants to know them. Like, what is it about that person? That's crazy. That's crazy. We are surrounded by a lot of pain. Yes, life is pain, as I've said before. However, imagine if Frida, because she still would have been an amazing artist no matter what. Imagine if Frida carried herself with that spirit of Viva La Vida. Even in the pain that she was in, because she was in a lot of pain. Her body could not carry her as well as it needed to. Like there's an artist who did an exhibition that only had Frida's work. It was the first exhibition of Frida's work only. She had to attend it in bed. That's how bad it was. But before that time, there were times where she could be mobile. So imagine if Frida was creating from a place of choosing herself. Imagine if we appreciated her work from her choosing herself and putting herself first. Imagine if she knew that she could still experience love without Diego, without having to go back to him over and over and over and over. She waits. She waits. My book that I had bucket listed from age 20 to 21 was inspired. And when I said, and I told myself that I want to write my book by this age, it was not about any pain or any man or whatever. It was purely based off the fact that I was gifted the art of writing. I'm a writer. I write. I'm a poet. I've written poetry a lot over the years. And then I had writer's block after I became a mother. I had serious writer's block after I became a mother. And then that's when I started writing the book just to practice, and then I stopped. Because motherhood was a whole other journey too, right? But then to think that something that I've always wanted to do was inspired by the pain that I chose to put myself through. The disapproval that I chose to the disapproval of self, and the eagerness to seek approval outside of myself inspired my first book. And I am happy and I'm grateful that that book is helping a lot of people. I don't know where in the world the people who have read my book are from. I just know that it's over 1,000 people who have read it, because you can read it in about 30 minutes. I made sure that it was that quick of a read. But it is an inspiring book to remind you that don't run away from yourself. Don't run away from yourself. And now my message is, don't create from pain. Don't exist from pain. Don't be that woman that always has to explain that, it hasn't always been easy. No. A diamond is a diamond. And we are always told, well, diamonds are created under pressure. Okay, the pressure happened when it was still just a stone. But then after that, what is it? It's a diamond. There's no pressure anymore. That pressure is gone because it's no longer a stone. It is now a diamond. So now you have to become a diamond. Your story, your past, the hardships that you've been through have created you to be a diamond. So what should a diamond do? It should just shine bright, as Rihanna says. So we shouldn't carry on as a woman also who's been through hardships to say, I'm a strong woman because of the things that I've been through. Oh, fuck that. The reason why, and I'm sure Denyuka is not the only person who's noticed this change in me, right? The reason why I seem and exude softness is because I stopped wanting to be strong. I stopped wanting to go through hardship. I stopped wanting to go through situations that didn't give me answers, or that only validated the present, or only gave me present gratification, but didn't give me answers for the future. I said this yesterday in a WhatsApp voice note, that if the answers are present, if something gives me answers now, then it is not towards my soul destiny. If I get the answers now, it is not towards my soul destiny. If I still don't understand the answers in the present, and it's obvious that as time goes, the answers will come in the future, it means I need to continue with my journey to get the answer. So anything that is soul building or destiny building, because again, let me remind you, us, whoever's watching this, that when we are doing the self-work, I'm going to start calling us self-lovers. When you are a self-lover and you start doing the self-work, the shadow work, the child trauma work, when you start doing the spiritual work, it is because you are wanting to become a better person. It is because you want to stop going through the hardship. It is because you are really over your own bullshit. Never mind other people. You are just seriously over yourself. And you know you deserve better. And to get better, you know that it all depends on you making the changes. You taking that girl or that woman or that boy or that man who is waiting for you, that you thought you left behind and you're running from, taking them and saying, let us go Let us go figure this life thing out together. You are a part of me and I am a part of you. There's no way that I am going to neglect you any further. You are a part of me. I see you, I recognize you, but we are going to change. The stone is still part of the diamond at the end of the day. But what do we see when we look at it? We see a diamond, we don't see the stone anymore. Let me finish my tea before it gets too cold. Let's start living. Yes, you've been through that hardship. Yes, you've been through that trauma. Yes, you've been through that abuse. Yes, you've been through the molestation. You've been through the rape. You've been through the physical abuse. You've been through the neglect. You've been through the disapproval. You've been through. But for the mere fact that you are here, you are becoming a better person. Be who you are or who you want to be from a space of happiness and not pain. And when we start doing that, there's less and less people who will start seeing us and accepting us, because whether we like it or not, the world knows and gladly receives pain or fear better than it does love. So get ready to be lonely. Get ready to be lonely. Get ready to change. The evolution is not easy, because all the world knows is pain. That's why when we're not at our best self, we attract people who are not the best at themselves either, which is why it is important to leave people where we find them. I am not going to sit here and blame my ex and say he was this, he was that, he was this, he was that. No. No. I was that. I was this, I was that, I was this, I was that. I was fucked up until I had to realize that I am dealing with myself here. I am really dealing with myself here. When there was a pop off, I would be like, Mamu, I saw myself in him. I dealt with myself. That's why my spiritual work really started, really, where I put myself out, where I was pressured. I was still the stone. I was pressured. So before that other work that I was doing, I was still the stone that is underground that hasn't yet been discovered, right? Because I hadn't discovered myself. So the certifying as the spiritual life coach and all the other stuff that I'd done then or before that time, right? I wasn't discovered yet. I discovered myself, and then now I'm a stone. And then that pressure had to happen. And then the diamond in me came up. And then during that time, while I was going through this internal, sometimes emotional, sometimes mental, sometimes verbal turmoil, I was trying, not even trying, I was helping others. I was sending out the message. And as someone who helps others and doing the work that we do with social media and sharing messages, at the end of the day, it's me speaking to myself. It's all me. It's always me against me. At the end of the day, whatever I say on these classes, on these videos, whatever, whether you're doing a personal reading or whatever with me, it is me speaking to myself, because everything about me is a reflection of self. Be a diamond. Be happy. Be happy. Be love. Act and live in love. Exist in love. Don't let your pain be the anchor of your existence. Don't let your pain be the reason behind you becoming who you are. Yes, it happened, but What kind of diamond are you? Show us that. Show us that brightness. That's what we want to hear. That's what we want to experience. Look after yourself. Do look after yourselves, guys. It's Aunty.MaGoGo, your spiritual life coach. Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for sharing. If you are new, please do subscribe. Please hit the notification button so that as soon as I have something ready to share, then you can watch it as soon as I upload. And you don't have to wait and wait and wait, because yes, I do try to post or upload as many messages as I can, but it's not a matter of me just doing it just to do it. I have to feel it to do it. I have to be compelled to do it. And I am doing it. So thank you so much for the love. This is Aunty.MaGoGo, slicker than your average auntie, doper than your sickest Magogo, ruled only by the kings in my veins, celebrated by the queens. In my bones, kinapiadi. Thank you so much. I love you. Mwah.